Awesome. We are live again on the WAT Facebook page. And to start things off, happy NATM again. We are going to get into another episode of our Uncorked conversation. So grab a glass of wine and settle in. And today's conversation, we are going to be talking about traveling internationally as an athletic trainer. I have three amazing guests that have all done it on very different spectrums. So I will let them all introduce themselves and we can jump right into it. Megan, why don't you start us off?
Hi, I'm Megan Smith. I am the chair of Women Athletic Training, but I also am an assistant athletic trainer at University of Delaware, and I work with the volleyball and golf teams. And my international travel has been for specifically kind of some volleyball tournaments. I've worked one off here and there.
Amy?
I'm Amy Miyazawa. I currently work at UC Health and also with Denver Sports Recovery. But my international athletic training experience stems from a lot of years actually helping out like USA Volleyball with the indoor teams traveling, as well as I was a head athletic trainer for the USA Volleyball beach teams for about 4 years for quads. So that includes an Olympic Games, as well as USA Wrestling, traveling internationally, and then some Kansas Volleyball going on a couple international trips as well. So
I'm definitely going to ask you about the differences of traveling at the NCAA level internationally and traveling at like the USA Olympic level, because I'm sure they're exactly the same. I'm sure they're totally the same on everything.
For sure.
All right, Marin, how about you?
Hi, I'm Marin Carroll. Currently head athletic trainer at Briarcliff University in Sioux City, Iowa. But I formerly worked 2 years with the MLS Academy system, and we traveled a lot with them. And then I did a year traveling with US Soccer, going on international and domestic team camps. And now I barely even have to travel at all because I'm an NAIA, and it's awesome.
The only international travel that you do is personal fun international travel for family.
Which is a lot more expensive.
Oh, I'm sure. No stipends for meals?
No, I don't get paid and I have to pay to do it.
That is true.
My own stuff. Yeah, it sucks.
All right, so tell me about, at least, let's start off with just one travel trip that comes to mind for you. Let's do the first one, your first travel trip. What were you not prepared for? How did you prepare for it? Did you have a mentor say, here, definitely do these things? Or was it going in blindly, trying to figure it out on your way? Megan?
So my first international travel trip was a volleyball tournament in Pula, Croatia. And I kind of just volunteered myself out there to try to help work this, and because I want to work internationally and I packed as if I would be catering to my own team in many senses. I mean, I went lighter because you're traveling internationally, but still packed way too much in many senses of like going, because the gym was about a quarter mile from the hotel and we just walked there every day. And so I had my nice little, like my normal bag that I have, which is like a rolly bag that goes from sideline to sideline, that back before COVID when you had to switch sides. And I'm thankful it had wheels, but also packed a lot more than what I think I needed for sure. I kind of just did it on a whim and was hoping for the best. And I was like, I think I may need some of this. I might not need some of this. And definitely learned on the job.
Now, since you were traveling, volunteering with the team, did you get to meet the team prior to arrival? Like, did you get to, work with the team on, hey, can you pack this? Can you pack this, or any of that? Or was it just, here's my kit, this is what I've got?
That is the second letter. I did not know who was on the team. We had some mass emails. Some people were already working or playing internationally. Some of them were domestic. And I've never met many of them. And that's one of the reasons why, I've met so many great people through these trips. And that was the hard part, is there is no coordination to be like, so you have this injury, can you make sure you bring like your necessities? I was like, I don't know who these people are. hopefully we're feeling good. Maybe not. Just in case, let's bring some of this and some of that and some of this, and which I think attributed to the overpacking on my end. So,
all right, Marin, your reaction tells me that is not the case for you. Tell me about your travel.
Well, I was more reacting to the fact that she had no idea who would need tape or who needs 8 bags of ice after like with US soccer, we never knew. Like, obviously there are some kids that have no idea, but they pack it for you in Chicago and you just meet them at the airport and it's the same stuff every time. So you know exactly what you're going to have. And it doesn't matter what they need because they give you like so much stuff and you don't have to worry about it. So I was like, I could not imagine me having to pack and not knowing the team.
So I
But
thought your first travel trip was, here's the list of things that you can pack. Here's what you can expect. Be at the airport at this time.
no, my first international trip was by far the worst because like I'm not going to name the academy, but like I went from one of the worst funded MLS academies to one of the best, and my first international trip was the worst. And like my athletic training room was like half of a shipping container and some dumbbells and a taping table, like in a town where it gets cold. Not gonna say where. So like the first trip we went to the Galway Cup in Galway, Ireland, and like
It's dry
it wasn't
and warm.
like it was U14s, so they're pretty low maintenance at that age. They don't need a lot of tape. They don't need like, it was less the fact that like I didn't really have to bring that much stuff or need stuff, but like on the other end it was, oh, there's no extra money for snacks. You're just getting 3 meals a day where we're staying, which is at the University of Galway. And it's like it. And I'm like, the 14-year-old boys are playing in a soccer tournament and there's no snacks. Cool. Okay. Not my job. I'm just gonna try not to think about how hungry and jumping off the walls they are because there was a lot of free time. So yeah, my first international trip, which I've been traveling internationally my whole life. It's not like it's the first time I've been out of the country, but it was definitely, there wasn't a lot that went into it. We just kind of went, and yeah, it was awesome though. Ireland is gorgeous. Like I hate jogging, but I always make it a rule that I jog whenever I go on international trips because it's really pretty. And like the pictures I have from running through Ireland is just like, it's amazing.
All right, Amy, let's start with the first international trip, and then you can kind of take us through the first for each of the areas. I'm sure they're just very, very different.
The thing is that they all kind of run together, so I can't really remember what my first one was, but I know I was super lucky because I was coming off of a fellowship with the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. So I think my first travel was with USA Volleyball women's indoor team, and so I knew quite a few of the athletes, not all of them, but quite a few of them. Plus, I had the support of the staff athletic trainers at that facility. So I was able to communicate with them and kind of figure out, like I had a bunch of time to prepare basically. And as far as like packing and all of that, they did quite a bit of that. And they already had it organized before from previous trips where like half the team would be assigned an extra bag, which was basically all sports medicine stuff. So it was like the rookie got the cooler, which that was the worst. That was the worst one to have because it was like they were in charge of finding ice, which when you go international, that is like one of the hardest things to do because you cannot find ice, literally. You ask the hotel, they give you like a little cup of it and you're like, no, I need like this half cooler full of ice. And they give you this look like, no, you're not going to get that. And then there was like, someone had to carry a table. Some people, like there was like a food bag for us for like, you know, snacks and bars and nutrition related items. There was the kit, there was all kinds of things. So I feel like I had a lot of help on my first trip. So it wasn't really truly a, you know, just me going out on my own, trying to figure it out as it goes. So I was very well prepared. But still, I think the challenges of international travel, they're depending on the country you go, like you need to, it's good to kind of research some of that, because some places, either from a cultural standpoint or from, it's very different. So like that, the no ice thing, number one. Number two, if you're going to a place where like the infrastructure isn't set up very well for just water access, then you have to get like bottled water everywhere you go, or like even to brush your teeth and things like that, where you don't want to have them drink, water out of the tap or water from any other source besides bottled. And I think one of my experiences, we went to a country that they didn't have your normal 20-ounce bottle of water. It was like giant jugs, like one of those like 20-gallon, like you would normally like try to. So one of the most valuable things I think that one of the staff athletic trainers told me to take was like a pump to like put on top of this thing, and like so you could pump the water bottles out of your room. But had we not had that, I don't know how we would have filled up water bottles, if at all, on this trip.
Yeah, we had a friend excursion to Mexico, and that was the size of the orange juice that was available.
Yep.
So we had this gigantic orange juice, and we're like, okay, wait, I'll stay on the table, and then we can try to. Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yep, it was. I think we were in Dominican Republic, if I remember correctly. And some of the locations are just very things that you wouldn't expect. Like, in the States, you go in college, you're just going to gym to gym to gym, right? And they have all that set up for you already. When you go on to international locations, you're not guaranteed anything setup wise. So you could walk into a gym. I remember one time we walked into a gym that was partially outdoor and indoor. Like there were openings on the sides of the gym that we're supposed to practice in. And it's a volleyball floor. However, it had rained the previous day. So there's puddles all over the gym floor, including some pigeons and birds and stuff that were like, around there as well. So I was like, oh, we're coming into practice. And first thing you got to do, let's find some towels and see if we can, wipe this up, get the birds out of here, and see if we can, have a practice that's safe. That was one of my experiences. Another experience, we were in a mall in Asia. And one of the floors, we come out of the elevator and there's, the volleyball floor. So it was, I don't know, there's varying locations. You pretty much have to be able to adapt and adjust to whatever your situation might be. And I think another time you have to think about packing and what you're carrying. I think I was with USA Wrestling, a women's wrestling team, and we went to a tournament in Klippan, Sweden. It is a very remote location. We had to take a flight, then we had to take a train, then we had to walk half a mile at midnight through this tiny town with cobblestone walkways to get to our hotel. And I'm carrying probably 300% my body weight in bags.
Was that during the summer or the winter?
Oh, it was winter. It was winter. It was
Of
cold.
course it was. Why wouldn't it be?
It was winter. There was snow on the ground. I drugged my bag. Like I was the last person to get to the hotel, but I made it. But one of the wheels on my rolling bag was flattened because it just like from dropping on the cobblestone.
Oh no.
So I mean, you got to be there's some things that you just can't prepare for. And just some adversity that you have to expect with some of those things, and you got to figure it out on the fly.
Now, alternatively, how did that prepare you, and what advice would you give for collegiate athletic trainers that are looking to travel with their teams, or they have a team trip coming up and they haven't been international with a team yet? What would your advice for that be?
For those athletic trainers looking to go, I would tell them to kind of research a little bit about like the locations that they're going to. If I know when I went with Kansas, we had like a trip planner, so we knew ahead of time like what cities that we were going to. what locations that we were going to, what kind of hotels that we were going to stay in. So I would look at all of that stuff and kind of look ahead to be like, okay, how big of a room do we have? Like, is it going to be big enough to hold all of our luggage or all of our supplies? Is it not? Do we need to get another room just as like to make into a training room, essentially? Or are we going to have some facilities space at the gym to be able to do what we need to do? It was a lot of also like coordination with the coaching staff to figure out what's the plan. Like, are we going on this trip? How many matches are we going to play? How many practices are we actually going to do? Because I think with Kansas, we had a lot of like sightseeing time, or like during the day, we actually didn't practice very much. It was just kind of we'll go play, we're gonna sightsee. So I didn't have to pack for those extra practices. Whereas when you're on like a trip with USA, you have to count for practices and matches. And if the tournament goes longer, then do you make it a championship day, or do you get knocked out of the playoffs? You have to prepare for that whole thing. So yeah, for athletic trainers who have never traveled before, look ahead, try to research as best you can what locations you're going to, what do you have access to, and talk to the people who are setting up where you're going, because they're probably setting it up not really knowing like you need all these things, or you might need all these things for training. I think we also, with USA Volleyball, we were always trying to look for a place for the athletes to like work out, to do a lift during training. Our strength coaches did a really nice job of trying to look ahead and try to seek out where's the nearest gym to the hotel, or where's the nearest gym to the venue, so that we would have access. If we couldn't find a gym, then it was like, can we get our hands on a bike, stationary bike, or like, small pieces of equipment just to do some makeshift workouts, things of that nature. And then, like Megan was saying, overpacking. I was actually happy when we overpacked, because we had everything that we could possibly think of at that point.
Okay, so speaking of packing, what is something that you would add into your kit that maybe you wouldn't have domestically, or something that you found that was super, super handy that was like, yes, every single time I need this in my kit? Marion?
Okay. If you're in Europe, you can get a pretty high concentration of Voltaren over the counter for pretty cheap. And I strongly recommend. Like, we would get to, is it Croatia? It was either Croatia or England, and we got there, and the team doc who was on the trip with us, was like, all right, I'm going to the pharmacy. Like, he got so much stuff, because there's so much stuff that's over the counter over there that you cannot get here. Like, I had 18 and 22% Voltaren in bottles like this big.
Yes, that's very
so that's my one thing. It was great.
Megan?
Oh man. Besides your adapter that you would want for any kind of plug-in, I feel like that's like a staple. And like I recommend doing like the multi-all adapter, and so it changed from one to the other instead of getting one adapter for this and one for that.
Power strip to go with it, and then you can connect everything.
Yep, because everything definitely different voltage, and you will that is like a staple. And then I feel like it sounds kind of like goofy, and it's not, but for us it's normal somewhat to have like water and Gatorade on every sideline. Gatorade, at least for volleyball in many senses for me, Gatorade was not a thing, so I always packed a couple bags of just the big ones inside and made sure that I brought it, because it was like, all right, whose water bottle, we're just dumping a little bit in. You need it because like Amy was talking about, some of these places don't have AC, they don't have they're open concept buildings, and you're always trying to kind of adapt. And for athletes that are indoor sport, you're always kind of acclimated to having some kind of temperature control. And so that is something that even, heat illness is obviously a very serious thing, but, the small things that you can do to kind of help with that, because we have different diets, different water, like different type, like Amy was talking about, you don't know what the water situation is ever. And so trying to adjust. So I always had a bunch of, depending on the athlete, obviously your electrolyte tablets, salt tablets, Gatorlights, whatever it may be, or like charcoal tablets to help upset stomach.
Anti-diarrheals.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Amy.
Yep, I agree with all of those things 100% that they already said. The medications, like a lot of times we didn't have a team physician that was with us. However, I always had a team physician like available to call.
Mhm.
So at all hours of the night, which was amazing. And so I traveled with a lot of prescription meds from here. I do a lot of prep ahead of time to be like, okay, what athletes are going to need what?
Mhm.
If there were specific prescriptions, make sure they all had their own, and then also had extra for the team. And then if we needed anything from a prescription standpoint, I'd call the team physician, and then he'd be like, okay, let's give them, X, Y, or Z. And then I'd have that in a stash. But I had to have the documentation for all of that too, because to get through security, get through all the airports, that sort of thing, like you have to have documentation sometimes for all of that, otherwise it gets confiscated. So
Sure it does.
And that's another thing to kind of try to prep for, like certain countries aren't going to let you take certain things, and so if it gets taken out of your bag, you might lose it. I think China for me was notorious for taking something out of my bag every single trip, whether it was like my personal battery pack charger or like a aerosol can of, I think it was like Tough Skin one time. I always lost something in China. So, but yeah, the power strips and the adapters are absolutely 100%. You need those. Otherwise, like that, every country's different. So,
And so here's my question for that. I have, like I said, I haven't traveled international. So this is all learning for me, aside from the knowing that there's no ice. It's the only thing I've ever like consistently heard across the board. As athletic trainers, we go beyond the prep work. So EAPs, that's something that how do you handle that? Do you take your own AED with you? Are you like, how do you figure that out in each of the places that you're going for any of the things that could possibly happen? Megan?
So mine, I was in contact with the organizer who I knew would be at the tournament and helping, specifically organizing the US affiliate team to play in this tournament. And I asked if I needed to bring my own AED. I could bring these things, like what, because obviously like you can't bring like an AED, splint bag, all the things. And traveling through, and even domestically trying to travel with through airports with an AED is a headache. I've had to travel due to having an athlete with a heart condition. We travel with AED with us at even if I knew the venue had an AED, I had one like to my side at all times, and you get stopped through your TSA checkpoint every single time, and they're like, "What do you have here?" And then you got to explain what an AED is, and then they open it up, it makes a large sound, and then it shocks them, and then they're scared, and you're like, and you even if you do give them prep, so
That actually happened?
It's happened multiple times where like they're like, "What's an AED? Like, why are you carrying this?" And I was like, and they're like, "We have to open it," and I was like, if you open that, it is going to like
advise things.
Advise it's going to start a system, because you open it if someone is in cardiac, like you have a cardiac problem, like you need this, like, and and they're like, what? And so then they open it again, and then it alarms them, and they just, yeah, like I just said, it just, and then they're like, oh, you weren't lying, and I was like,
No.
no. Was not. So traveling internationally, I did prep for that, knowing that like depending on the facilities, and I asked the organizer. He said that there were AEDs there, but at later tournaments I've worked, I can confidently say there was no AED because you go and you search it out, and it was in a rural. My second one or one of the ones was a rural part of Vietnam, so it was literally just I'm on my phone looking for a local hospital of like if something happens, this is where I need to go. And we are 6 hours away from a large city that where I know there will be a language barrier where we're at. We are in a rural part. So talking to our person, our guy, liaison, our guide to help us and be like, listen, like I'm gonna need your help to help communicate if this does go. I see this here on Google Maps for my English. Is this correct? And is this something that you would advise for us to go to? If not, what's the other venue that we would, or what, what's our plan from there?
Marion?
Honestly, I don't think we ever traveled with AEDs with US Soccer. We definitely didn't with the soccer academies. But I only went to like one, I would say, developing country area, but it still wasn't like it was Rosario, Argentina. So it was still like a big city. So we never went to anywhere rural. So like you get there, if the teams are good enough, you get a team doctor. If they're not, it's just you. Because the doctors do it for free. So we would just get there and scout out a hospital, and we would always have someone with the party who spoke the language, whether it was like in Argentina, we had a coach who was from there who now lives in the States. And then like, if we are ever in Europe, we would have a liaison who spoke all of the languages. So they're like our first point of contact, and they would know where to go because it's their job to take teams to places. But yeah, we never traveled with an AED with US Soccer. Looking back, maybe I would have wanted to, but maybe they do now. I don't know. It's been a while.
All right, Amy. US Olympics. How do they do it?
I mean, I guess it was kind of like half and half. Some trips we went on, we didn't have AED. Some trips we went on, we did have an AED. And I think it kind of depended on rural versus city, or like if we knew the medical that was going to be there, and we knew what they had, then we didn't necessarily have to take it all the time. As far as like emergency action planning, we had more of a global thing set up. So like if something catastrophic happened, like the goal was to stabilize them at a approved hospital, which we had like a listing of either through the general consulate or whatever for that country, where we would take someone to stabilize them and then basically get them out. Like we would medevac them out to get back to the States. So we had a kind of a plan in place. I never ever had to activate it or use it, but it was nice just kind of knowing that was kind of there for fallback, because when stuff happens, it's like you start to scramble if you haven't looked at any of those things ahead of time. It's kind of like, what do I do? Language barrier is tough, but we also had a lot of liaisons or the tournament directors or translators there. If I didn't have a translator, then I would rely heavily on the Google Translate with all the people that were around. So
awesome. Okay, so before we jump into a couple more, what is being an athletic trainer on the Olympic stage? Like at the Olympics, it's happening, the rings are above you. What is that like?
Oh my gosh, it's lots and lots of emotions that I can't fully express. The Olympic Games was always a career goal of mine, so that was just something pretty surreal. I think in the moment you're going through it so fast, like you don't have time to process everything. I mean, looking back, I don't know, we had midnight matches because at the time I was covering USA Volleyball Beach. So, I mean, Carrie Walsh Jennings and April Ross were playing midnight matches in Brazil. As well as we had 3 other teams that also made it, 2 on the men's side, 2 on the women's side, that were playing matches, you know, throughout the day or like mixed up. So some nights I was getting 3 hours of sleep and then getting up and going with another team, you know, to tournament. But as far as like medical, we had scattered out everything prior to the Olympic Games. So we kind of knew like where we would be location wise. I had put plans in that we turned a hotel room into a training room at the hotel that we were staying. Our venue happened to be 2 hours away from the Olympic Village, so we ended up staying closer to our venue because it wasn't going to be good for us to, you know, have to commute 2 hours back and forth with traffic that you don't know how long it's actually going to take. So we felt it was better just to have a close location. And then we contacted the organizers. They already had people that were volunteering there for medical, plus for like everybody. And then there was also USA Medical that was there for all the USA teams. So there was a lot of support, a lot of resources for us. So it wasn't just me necessarily, but it was kind of like I was more like a point person for our beach teams. And then leaning on our USA team support as well. And then there was the country medical as well.
How much of the Olympic experience do you get to experience as an athletic trainer? Are you walking? What are you doing during ceremonies? Do you get to, I mean, like, I've never been. So what is that like? I mean, like,
I would say
that's big venues, but
I think it's definitely more glorified than what people think. Like, you think Olympics and you think like you don't really get to do all that much, other than my team happened to be participating through the entire 3 weeks. So I spent 3 weeks in Rio while they were competing. We had matches that were every other day basically, but they staggered them. So it was like matches every single day, plus training and all that for those people who were off. And I got to see a little bit, like I really can't complain. I got to walk in the opening ceremonies, which was a surreal moment with Team USA. That was something I wasn't expecting, and I kind of got there and they're like, hey, we get 2 staff representatives. Do you want to do this? And I was like, heck yeah. So who's going to turn that down, right?
Yep.
So I got to walk. It was very cool walking into, you know, a full stadium of 50,000 people chanting USA as you walk in. Your flag is there, like your representatives, the whole team is walking in, everyone's dressed, you know, in our Ralph Lauren garb, and you know, it was cool. However, what people don't see was the 8 hours of waiting up to that 10-minute walk, where we were waiting on the bus to get over there, or waiting in the holding area, which was another arena, watching. They gave us snacks, which was like a granola bar and some popcorn. So there's a lot of waiting to get to that point for sure. But once you hit that moment, it's pretty cool.
That is so. We could probably do an entire Uncorked on just Amy's experience at the Olympics, because that just sounds amazing. How aware of, this is not an AT question, this is just a Chelsea's Curious question. How aware of the outside world or the viewing of the Olympics or any of that are you when you're submerged in Olympic life?
I mean, to be honest, we were kind of in a bubble a little bit. I think at the time there were like local protests and things going on. However, because there was since it was in Brazil, I think there was some of the locals did not support the Olympics, or how the government had gone about, I think, using some of the finances for the country to support the Olympics. And as well as like the area that we were in, near Copacabana Beach. I believe before we got there was kind of a high crime area. So we had like some alerts and things to watch out for, like be careful of certain areas or some crime related things. But I think the protests were going on because also they had, before the Olympics, I believe they had cleaned out that area, so to speak, or moved people out of there, which wasn't, I mean, obviously it's like you're moving a bunch of people out of the area for Olympics. So it wasn't a popular thing a lot of the times. But it didn't really affect like how the games was going on, but there was high security a lot of times. We had our own security detail. Every time we got to the venue, we had our own security people that were with us the whole time. And then you could see that there was security all around, like all the venues and things. And it was very, like, if you didn't have your credential with you, you weren't getting in, like at all. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think I've seen some videos of just that in the recent ones where a skater, their coach took their credential with them on accident, like it was like on the bag. And like she was like stuck. She was like, I can't leave this corridor. I am now here. And he'd already got all the way back to their hotel and then had to travel the 2 hours back and be like, I'm sorry, here's the credential.
Yeah.
Okay, so AT question wise for all of you, are there certifications that ATs can pursue that lend themselves to help on the international stage more? Marin?
Not any more than regular athletic training, besides learning a foreign language.
No, fair.
Because like, and we're not recognized anywhere else. So it's not like we're going there and they're like, oh, you're an athletic trainer? Go for it. Like you, like a lot of them don't even think that we're qualified to do what we do, just, you know, because they don't have athletic trainers or they have physiotherapists or so beyond what you would get as a regular athletic trainer to like learn more stuff. Do you guys agree? I can't think of anything like certification wise that would be any.
Like, is that something where like FMS or like the non-modality certifications lend, or are you more so because you're only there for like games and whatnot, then it's more so like the continuation of care to get them to the next game?
Not FMS because it's so fast. Like it's just treat what's there, go like get them through. Like I'm actually reading a book right now and it's called What the Physio Saw. And it's like this guy that writes from the perspective of a Premier League physiotherapist in England, but he just brings a lot of stories from like his friends and he used one of his old physios to write the book. It's a long series, but basically they always talk about how like the national team physios like use the athletes and then they just send them back. Like you're getting them through the international games. And like I knew what it was like to be on both sides. Like I was the academy athletic trainer having a kid come back from national team camp like broken, and I hadn't gotten any communication about what their injury was. So like if our kids ever got hurt, I would be sure to find out who their athletic trainer was back home and be like, hey, this is what's up. We got him through the games, but he might be he's a little injured. You know, so like it's more about like it's definitely like fast. And part of me liked you don't have to go in depth rehab. It's just like treat them, control the pain, get their performance out of them, and then send them home. But part of me ended up like really missing the crap out of rehab because I love rehab. And eventually I was like, I mean, I actually had a coach complain because I didn't use E-stem on a girl, because I was coming from a year at one of the best academies in the country and E-stem was not a concept. We did functional, like my boss would rip your head off if you tried to hook up electrodes to someone instead of just rehabbing the crap out of them. And so like, I literally had a coach complain that I didn't put E-stem on this girl for her bruised foot. And that girl is on the national team now. Like, she's one of the best players in the country. And like, I remember that distinctly because like it didn't even occur to me because they give you IFC machines, they give you ultrasound, they give you everything. But I was like,
I don't
didn't even
need
cross
this.
my mind. Oh, she got stepped on. Maybe I should just zap it so she can feel better. In
Now,
hindsight,
Amy,
I should have.
as you're traveling with USA Volleyball, you're kind of having to do both, like so that you can continue on through your international season.
Yeah.
How does that play out?
Yeah, it would have to sometimes, I mean, with beach volleyball, they were literally country hopping or sometimes continent hopping week to week to week. So, and I myself couldn't like do that. I would never be able to, you know, handle that with the amount of travel. So we had a lot of help with USA Volleyball Beach has a very talented group of providers from various disciplines. So we had some chiropractors, some physical therapists, athletic trainers, massage therapists in this group that will travel week to week with beach volleyball, so that the staff athletic trainer isn't always going to all of them. Mm-hmm. However, the communication, is tough. Trying to say, hey, you're going on the next trip. And it was also hard because some of the teams weren't always, we had some teams that would go home after a tournament, then some teams would go to the next tournament on another continent. Some teams would go to another tournament that might be going on. So it was like trying to coordinate herding cats and trying to get everyone where they're supposed to go and the right information to the right people.
In the world.
In the world.
Not just like on campus, but like
not just
in
this
the
time
world.
zone. in other time zones. As well as taking care of the people that were, right in front of you as well. But it was, as far as like certifications or additional things, like, I don't know that other than it's good to have as many tools in your tool belt is what I feel. I think it was helpful for me because sometimes you can't take all those modalities on the road with you. So what do you always have with you? You have your hands with you all the time. So I would highly invest in like manual therapy skills or things that don't require a lot of machinery or things to take with you on the road. Because sometimes you just can't, if you got someone that's doing ultrasound, is that worth taking a machine with you, packing it, taking up that space, which you could utilize for other supplies or other things for one athlete that might use it twice. You have to kind of prioritize a little bit what things you want to be able to use and what's useful. But I also think that's a team to team thing as well. Beach was heavy in the manual therapy realm, whereas I know a lot of other teams are not. So it kind of depends on what team you're working with and their culture of treatment. But like Maren was saying, it's definitely like you're not doing a lot of rehab during tournament week. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you get those people? Maybe if they're going home, then maybe I would send them, with something to do at home or connect with the next place. Hey, let's try to get these in on your off days or get these in on your recovery days.
Okay, so as the person, again, that hasn't traveled internationally, here's my naive question that I'm sure others are going to think. So I'm just going to ask it and I'm not going to be afraid to. Using your skills, so dry needling, cupping, those sorts of things, Graston certifications, like those sorts of like next level certifications that you've gotten. We in the US, we've gotten like now we can travel with teams and not have to worry about crossing state lines and practice acts being violated and whatnot. How does that work internationally? Like, is it just like hey, I'm with the team, so we're just gonna let this play out, or is anything written? Is anything existing? Like, what is that in the world?
I mean, whatever you do in the hotel room with the door closed, the government's not gonna crack down on you. I feel like I honestly don't know. In terms of like dry needling is the only thing that comes to mind. I don't know if that's limited in any other countries, just like it's limited in the US. Everything else wouldn't be a problem, but.
Amy, did you run into any of those or have any like conversations on those levels of things that you can't do or shouldn't do in the different countries or areas?
Nope. It's like Maren was saying earlier, like it's the jurisdiction, I guess you could say. Like they don't recognize athletic trainers at all. We're considered physios. That was the closest thing to us. And so, but there was never, I mean, we would have some paperwork or credentials that got sent to the National Federation or whatever that recognized us as medical. But there was no question as to like what we were allowed to do, what we weren't allowed to do. And so I kind of based it off of what our team physician was comfortable having me do. So like if our team physician wasn't comfortable having me do dry needling, you know, which I didn't have anybody that wasn't comfortable with that. But that would be my only stipulation, because I mean, if you have to answer anybody, it's back here in the US. So, but over there, if you were part of a team and vetted already, like they didn't really have questions. I never got questioned for any of that stuff. So
awesome. Again, like I said, I don't know.
No, it's a good question.
We don't know either.
For sure.
Just did it.
Like legal.
Okay, so a couple questions that are not on the international topic. What has been the most influential resource, most influential person for you thus far in your AT career? Megan?
Oh man. Influential person or resource? It has to be like the mentors from undergrad and grad school of these women who have worked so hard and set that high bar standard for me to be the best athletic trainer I can be, keep pushing the needle forward. One of my former preceptors from undergrad is now with USA Volleyball, and it's like I really like I learned a lot in undergrad from her, and I still feel like I still am, even kind of from afar, and setting that standard. I think really just working with amazing women and working with some awesome athletic trainers that kind of help again push that needle and help to push me to be the best person and athletic trainer out there for my athletes. And I think that would have to be my best resource. Yeah,
that's a good resource. Amy?
Yeah, I agree with Megan. Like all the people, whether it was the foundation that was set at our undergrad, or grad school, or those people and those relationships, I still keep in touch with a lot of people throughout the various phases. And it's just that knowledge, and not just athletic trainers, but like the other disciplines, other healthcare providers that I've worked with too, like the team physicians, physical therapists, like physios, even some of when I went internationally, made friends with some of the physios overseas, and they had techniques and things that they wanted to share as well. So it was very much just learning from everyone around you, or being in an environment that's supportive and encouraging, and trying to, you know, do the best that you can and gain as much knowledge as possible.
Marion?
How am I supposed to follow those two? Like, I have a person in mind, and it's not even a female.
That is okay.
Well, my boss, when I worked in Philadelphia, his name is Bill Knowles, and he just has this reconditioning program that he came up with that's a bunch of movement patterns. And the basic philosophy is like, to a point, all lower extremity rehab targets everything and not just the specific injury. And like, I still use everything he ever taught me, and I've added I added a bunch of stuff onto what he taught me. But because we would have professional athletes come in for like 2 weeks, like in their 6th month of ACL rehab, and just like learn all of this stuff, learn the muscle activation, and then tune up. And like, he literally changed everything about what I thought about our profession. And like, I still don't see anything similar to how I do things in anybody else, be that a bad thing or a good thing. Like, So he's literally the most influential person in my career, hands down. And like, I welcome anybody to come and learn that stuff whenever they want. Like without going into too much detail. But for anybody that wants to like get into like international soccer, the FIFA diploma in sports medicine is online and it's free. It took me about a year, and like, it's not a real credential. I still put it on my resume because just because something is free doesn't mean it doesn't matter, in my opinion. But it like, they have sections on nutrition, they have sections on jet lag, they have sections on every body part, on cardiac. Like it's so in depth that I thought I'd finished, and they were like, oh, just kidding, we're coming up with 6 more in like a few months, so you're gonna have to wait for your diploma. And I was like, are you serious? So anybody that wants to get into soccer or like international soccer or like high level, Google the FIFA diploma in football medicine, because it's incredible.
We will drop it
completely free.
as a link in the WAT video for this.
Yeah,
we'll go ahead and post that up. That way that can be super easily found.
Yeah.
I will add that one of my most influential resources is, look at the Zoom. She's sitting over there, I believe, in the video on Facebook. Is Amy. We did go to the same undergrad. We were not anywhere near the same years together, but I got to work at KU with her, and game changer in terms of someone that can make it super easy and comfortable for you to ask questions and learn new things and teach you all the things. And since then, whether she's wanted it or not, she's been my resource and my go-to call for those, especially my upper extremity, because I worked a lot of upper extremity sports. Those upper extremity, what is going on? Like, okay, I've done all these things. What am I missing? Is there another view? Is there another picture? And sometimes, even if it was just nope, that's all the things, just keep trucking. Or sometimes she would blow my mind with something new that she came up with. So Amy Miyazawa is an amazing resource. So if you have questions in WAT, absolutely reach out. She has this absolute breadth and depth of knowledge that is fantastic. Okay, but
thanks, Chelsea.
What is something, we'll wrap it up. What is something that you are most proud of as an athletic trainer? Marion, you can go first so you don't have to follow anybody. I love you so much. Ready to go.
Okay. So I was in Philadelphia 2014 to 2015. Since I left there, I've been the strength and conditioning coach for a few teams. I've done a lot of injury prevention for those few teams. And this includes women's soccer and women's basketball. I have not had an athlete tear their ACL non-contact a single time.
Everybody find your wood just real quick nearby, and we're just gonna put that out in the atmosphere. I have no doubt in it at all. Like I know that you know all of your word insert here. But on my end, I'm gonna go ahead and knock on just a little bit of that.
I know, and I don't usually say it because I am just as superstitious as last time. Like I had to call an ambulance on a kid at a football game last season, and afterwards I told the head coach, that was your fault because you made me ride the defense bus. And it was true. It was the first time I'd ever done that, and it's the first time I've had to backboard a kid my entire career.
Yeah, athletic trainers I found are more than just a little stitious. We have our own superstitions.
Super. Mm-hmm. So maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it really is. That is the answer.
Megan, what are you most proud of?
I think, like, I hate to be like cliche on it, but it's literally just like that moment of working with these athletes through like their worst moment, like their worst of a surgery or injury, and that first time back on the court. Like that is everyone's kind of felt, every AT's kind of felt it. Probably one of my primary driving forces, but like I think the primary one that ever hit was like it was a volleyball player who she didn't always play, and but she was a senior and she tried so hard, and she had this high ankle sprain that she just could not get back. And it just like the joy on her face when she got put in, because again, she was not a starter. And it was like a tournament game, and coach was like, "You come on." Like, it's, you know, it's those little moments. So it maybe it's, you know, it doesn't seem like anything super significant, but it's like those, like I said, those little moments kind of, you're like, yep, I kind of helped with that. And afterwards they give you the biggest hug and they're like, thank you so much.
Amy?
Ooh. I mean, we already talked a little bit about the Olympics, but I don't know. I mean, that's, as far as like a highlight in my career, that's probably one of the highlights. But as far as what I'm most proud of, honestly, are the relationships that this career has, you know, brought me, or that I've, whether it's with my athletes or colleagues, students, you know, mentors, teachers, just building that network and having those relationships is I'd say the most thing that I kind of take from this job.
All right, last thing, what is a piece of advice you would pass off to an athletic trainer entering the profession in their beginning years, in their education still? What's something you would pass off to them? Megan?
I mean, I think we've kind of talked about this before, mentioned in a previous one, but always give yourself some grace. Always know that you're not going to get it 100% right. And that is, keep pushing forward, and you're going to work hard, and it'll all work out in the end. And then in the athletic training, like international realm, I would say, like, if you see something that you're interested in, again, some people may forget to travel an athletic trainer, and they've never even thought about it. If you see something, email the director and be like, do you need an athletic trainer? I can't guarantee you're gonna get it paid for, but if it's something that you're looking to get into, you want to put on your resume, if you want that international experience, I highly recommend just, you know, searching your sport of choice, or in whatever it is, search it out. If it sounds cool, email the director and then see if you can start a conversation, because maybe not this year, but next year, maybe, like, you know, like there's always room for opportunity, and the worst you're going to get back is a no, you know?
Amy?
Yeah, piece of advice. In general, I would say, you know, never stop learning. Always keep your mind open. You're always learning. I think I'm still, you know, a student, and I'm still learning things as I go, the farther I get in my career. And to piggyback on what Megan was saying too, like, if you're interested in international travel, the thing is, every sport is different. And so you really need to research, whether it's volunteering for local tournaments, maybe start at like grassroots events for whatever that sport is. Get to know those people who are running those events, and find out how maybe the senior level is doing it, or whatever level it is, international level. How is that sport structured? In the U.S., every U.S. team has a national governing body, or an NGB is what it's called. So those are the people that are, you know, doing all the things for that sport internationally. So that would be a great place to start if you're looking to go international. And like Megan said, some of them they don't have athletic trainers, or maybe they don't have the funding for athletic trainers, or if they're set up like it's more of an individual sport, they don't travel athletic trainers. Some are going to have, maybe they have, you know, chiropractor, or they have a physical therapist, or, you know, it's just different sport to sport. So it's good to kind of research that, either local tournaments, or if you see a bigger tournament, like, try to find out who those key medical people are, or like the directors of those NGBs, just to figure out what the system is.
Maren?
So kind of piggybacking off of those, and like with the caveat, like, I am 100% for knowing your worth, not working for free, don't let people walk all over you, and don't let your job control your life. That being said, while you're still single / childless or both, volunteer for everything and do everything. Like, I stopped working in high level youth soccer because I was working 60 to 70-hour weeks, traveling every weekend. I would get 3 days off the entire fall, and one of those days was Thanksgiving. And like, I made a choice to step away because I knew I eventually wanted to move back home and have a family. And now I could not dream of traveling like I used to. But while you still can, while you still don't have a whole ball and chain dragging you down, or a little kid that you never want to leave, go on all the trips and do everything you can, because the experience is priceless and it's incredible. And like, I've been to Italy with World Cup champions. I've been to Messi's old club in Argentina. Like, the places that I've been, like, no one will ever take that away from me. And it's made who I am as an athletic trainer. And like, do it while you can, because eventually you're not going to be able to.
And that's for like the longer team commitments, the overarching year-long travel. But there are definitely, and I know Megan's been through a lot of those travel as well, there are definitely those opportunities where it's a 1 to 2 week offshoot. Hey, we need an AT to go with this team to this country. Are you game? And that's something that anyone at any point in their career can jump onto, and should. If you want that opportunity, then absolutely go for it.
Like the Maccabi games, I think I'm pronouncing that right. They're in Israel, and they take volunteer athletic trainers, and they travel the athletic trainers to work. Like, that was an opportunity that we posted on WAT a few months ago, like stuff like that. People will use us for free all the time. Just use them for like cool travel and experiences, and then everybody wins.
Yeah, that's exactly how I started too. I was helping out USA Volleyball Indoor, volunteering to going on 1 or 2 week trips, and did that every few years or so, until the USA Volleyball Beach position opened up, and then I got hired on as a head. So it's worth it if that's something that you're really interested in what you want to do.
If you work for a team that has the word beach in a title, you get to go to really cool freaking places, right? Nowhere crappy has a beach.
I mean, there were some awesome tournaments where I don't know where they got the sand. We were in like the Swiss Alps in a little town called Stade every year.
That's still cool though. That is not Dayton, Ohio. Like, that's still cool.
We don't have a lot of beaches in Iowa. All right, with that, I think we will wrap things up. Be cognizant of everyone's time. Thank you to each of you so much for sharing your pieces of knowledge. It is amazing just to think about athletic trainers on that international level and getting that international experience. So thank you, Megan and Amy and Marin, for taking the time out to do this. WAT members, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. We will absolutely make sure that we get to them to answer them over time, over the week, whenever you get a chance to listen. As you go through to listen to each of these Uncorked conversations or any of the other live interviews we've done, the easiest way to do it is to scroll up to the top of the Women in AT page, click on guides, and you can find them all there. If you're like me, I kind of like to play it in the background and listen to it kind of like a podcast during the day. I'm not that cool to look at, so you don't have to watch me the whole time doing it. But it's something really fun to listen to as you go. And we have some amazing conversations in there from the last couple of years. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, please do so. The other shameless WAT plug that we'll put in there is please take the chance to nominate a woman athletic trainer in your life for the Women Crushing It Wednesdays posts. It's just a highlight. It's nothing massive. The form is very, very easy to fill out. All of you know somebody that is absolutely crushing it in what they do. So please take the time and throw a little love her way, post it in there. You can find that under our announcement section, our featured section. There's a link that takes you to a really, really simple Google form to fill out so that we can highlight her and just show how awesome she's doing. And it is the 22nd. So for the next, I don't do math, 9 days of the month, the WAT shop is open and has a 15% off absolutely everything for National Athletic Training Month going on. Megan's wearing my absolute favorite piece of gear, which is the shawl hoodie. It is so comfortable. I wear it all the time. I probably wear it too much, but there's a ton of stuff in there. If you're looking for a Mother's Day present, they have my mom's and AT shirts that you can customize to be mom, grandmother, Nina. Like, you have all the different options on there. And if they don't have one that works for you, they will make it for you. So those are the shameless Women AT plugs. And thank you so much for your time, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks. All right, we are stopping.